I was explaining to some folks the other day that Advent is a season when the church is called to actively remember that it is waiting for the fulfillment of time, commonly known as the second coming of Christ, when the world is turbulent because God's kingdom, the kingdom of God's way, is being established on earth. And one person said, well, that doesn't sound very Christmassy. And I had to say, no, it isn't. The Christians of the modern era handed their spiritual direction over to the retail sector after 1919 and forgot that Christmas actually begins on December the 25th and lasts a whole 12 days, ending with Epiphany. But we've bought into Christmas beginning on December the 1st and ending on the 26th. We have taken Advent to mean just getting ready for Christmas and nothing more. Getting ready for Christmas instead of getting ready for Jesus' way to take a radical and powerful hold on our hearts and our world. That just doesn't have the same warm fuzzy. So we kind of shortchange ourselves. But Charles Dickens, writing A Christmas Carol, gives us a glimpse of an Advent state of mind when he lifts up the needs of his time. Tiny Tim, whose family should not be so poor that they can't provide decent care for him. The men who come to Scrooge for a donation to help the less fortunate. The issue of workhouses and prisons as places filled with the destitute while others live well and don't care. The transformation of Ebenezer Scrooge is from a man who doesn't care to one who does, and then wants to help change the community. The transformation of Scrooge is of a man with a damaged life and a broken heart who chooses to grow wise from his pain, mend some fences, and heal. But getting from bah humbug to, oh, can you forgive an old fool, isn't very Christmassy. And Dickens is clear that it's difficult. But this is Advent stuff. This internal change and external action is kingdom of God stuff. And then, if you remember the story too, the Feast of Christmas crowns the season. And if you wish, the dancing goes on for 12 days. So the readings today aren't very Christmassy. They are hide under your desk tumultuous. And for United Church people who aren't very much into the rapture, stay alert for the big event can seem rather archaic and meaningless. And because it hasn't happened as the church expected, we pretty much ignore it these days. But let's listen inside Mark's words for a moment. The picture that Mark paints is really interesting because it's one of darkness. If you'll recall what Marion read, the sun is dark at the coming, so there isn't moonlight either. The stars have fallen from the heavens, and when the Son of Man, or the human being, comes, he comes in clouds, not sparkles. Mark says, watch the darkness, stay alert, stay awake. As we move with Earth towards the solstice, the external darkness unnerves us. We all seem to grumble about how early it gets dark, and we don't feel like doing stuff, or it's disorienting. But what if we took Mark's words to heart? What if we were to watch the darkness? If we were to welcome its coming, see the drive home from work in it as fitting, maybe it wouldn't be so hard on us. If we were to cut back our outings instead of increasing them, as we seem to do in December, if we were to take walks in the dark as if they were a prayer, if we were to look up, especially between now and December the 14th, and see the stars fall as we enter the Geminid meteor shower, we might remember that December's nights are mystical. And what if we were to see this whole journey to the solstice as one great opportunity to open our hearts and let God speak to us silently in the dark? Jesus will come, Mark says, in darkness in the end time. What if we practiced letting him come to us in the darkness of December right now? So much of our use of the word dark or darkness is for something negative. And many of the church's prayers ask for light. Light in our darkness, we beseech thee, O Lord. And truly, that has its place. But what if December's prayer was darken our lightness? Help us to walk with what we don't see and what we don't understand. Because the truth is, there's a whole lot of that lying underneath all of our distractions and our need to be entertained and plugged in. And if Mark is right, the Lord is there too, with truth that leads us to light and life. So even if it's the simple awareness of the world around you, or the hand that you hold as you walk along, you meet the Holy One. By opening us up to end times, the other thing that Mark does is invite us into the endings we experience in our lives. These readings do speak of times of change and upheaval and grief, and that can feel like the confusing darkness of night. The Lord is there, says Mark. It's hard to see anything in the dark, particularly Christ the Lord. Sometimes all that we're aware of is our suffering. It can be hard, persistent work. But even in that, Mark says, keep awake, be alert, look into the darkness, whatever kind it is, for the presence of God. Theodor Rothke, the poet, wrote, "In a dark time, the eye begins to see. I meet my shadow in the deepening shade. I hear my echo in the echoing wood." Last night, when the power went out in Lively, even after letting my eyes grow accustomed, it was so dark that I had to feel my way upstairs, listen for the dog breathing so I didn't trip on her, and then fumble around in a drawer for the flashlight that I knew was there somewhere. It was a slow process. There is something to be learned, a growing to be done in the times we call dark. Not all at once or immediately, certainly. Slowly, slowly, often. But look into it, says Mark. We call Christ the light of the world, but it is not only there that he abides. When Dickens writes an Ebenezer Scrooge finding his truth, his strength, and his joyful new beginning in the spiritual energy of the night, he reminds us of Mark's message. Within the darkness may be the wisdom, the truth, the call to change that we need. So what's your relationship with darkness right now? Can you explore it a little this season? Can you trust that God is there? Maybe this is a good week to watch A Christmas Carol. Whatever is your favorite version, whether it's Mr. Magoo or any of the others. Or a good time to read the story itself and see what it calls up for you. Or maybe this is a good week to go for a walk, if you're able, under the night sky. Greet the gathering shadows as you leave work. Or sit by the window for a few minutes before you put on the Christmas lights. Or let it be dark when you light your Advent candles. Welcome what the dark may bring you in truth, in wisdom, and in the presence of God that is there, and in the yearnings that come up from deep within. As we move toward the solstice and Christmas, may we open ourselves to God to work in us in this season, so our hearts are ready for the work that it is to usher in the kingdom of peace and justice with mercy and love in our time and in our community, in our lives and in our work. May we not be afraid. Joyful is the dark.